Hello and welcome to round 2 with Blue-Red Swans. Reasonable interactive hand to keep. And, yeah, let's think this through. What's our opponent on? Because I didn't figure it out immediately because the list has changed a little. I thought this was some kind of nonsense deck like, Esper, but I should have immediately known that this was going to happen to me. So, I think my hope is just to remand the Lantern and hope to hit a counterspell at this point, which that's not a counterspell. That's not a real counterspell. Sadly, my opponent has the land to break the perfect top deck and the Academy runes to kind of... God, everything's just falling apart. Like, you gotta like Cryptic and bounce the Lantern and then counter it on the way back down, and none of that's happening. We're going to use the Misty to try and filter our draw step a little bit more than our opponent's going to potentially let us. This game is not going to get going well. So we shuffle away the land, draw another land. We are not doing anything, and I basically would say this is the point where I have almost no chance. Kind of shocked my opponent didn't like upkeep fire. I guess they only have one shredder, so they need to protect. They're fine drawing that. I was thinking last turn they could have filtered away a card with upkeep shredding, but they just don't have to. Fetch with Tarn in response to Needle. My opponent opts to name Chandra Torch of Defiance instead of just getting the fetch land, which I guess gives me another out. But I'm just drawing all air anyways, regardless. Lantern is not actually helping my opponent. So now my hope was to like Cryptic, draw swans, bolt my own swans, and draw out of this situation. But I think my window is basically closed almost immediately if my opponent sticks a second lock piece, because they can prevent me from drawing the right card with Cryptic. There's swans on top of my deck, so lucky. I have to hit another after this to potentially have any shot. I don't. And now we're just, bridge, swan. And my opponent sees the ability to remove the Ghoul Caller's Bell, and I save us both as much time as possible, and I'm just done here. We're not getting anywhere past that. They're also drawing an Inventor's Fair, so the third lock piece is not far behind. I think the odds of me winning that game are... It might actually be 0, but if not, it's really, really close. Oh, I don't have Cryptics to get rid of the bridge, so I also would need to go through... I need to cast and flashback every single lightning bolt in my deck to deal the required amount of damage. So, yeah, I believe that is actual hard locked, because if a single Snapcaster gets milled in the process, I'm just done. Yeah, there's no chance. Yeah, literally no chance if my opponent sits around and does nothing, unless they see a card they need to mill on top. Well, great deck. Everyone had fun, and lesson learned. Just, when you play against Lantern, know when to concede. Know when you're actually just drawing dead, and don't make them go through all the effort. Moving on to sideboarding here. Pretty straightforward. Just take out the stuff that kills creatures. Bolt, not actually the most exciting card in the world against them. It can win through a bridge, but I'm going to try to prevent the game from getting to that point. Blood Moon takes out Inventor's Fair and Academy runes. I don't care about them not casting spells. I care about them not using the lands that give them inevitability. Shatterstorm, obvious, wins the game. Pithy Needle just can shut down one of their lock pieces. Keranos kills them through the lock for the most part. Well, not through the lock, but through a bridge. Counterflux interacts. Vanilla Click interacts. Worth noting, I did realize after the fact I made a mistake. There should not be spell snares in my deck still against Lantern post board. And the end game is that the bolts come back in for those after I figure it out. A little bit of a spoiler alert, but it's this card does not do anything against them. They have like Abrupt Decay that you can't counter. They have like Spell Skite, whatever. Especially because my interactions like Shatterstorm. Like, who cares about a Spell Skite at the end of the day? So, there we go. I'm also, again, You know, if Lightning Bolt was more of a key, maybe I'd need to Spell Snare their Spellskite, but I'm just going to counter down all their stuff and hopefully get through that way while shutting down Academy Runes so they can't keep looping. Okay, so game 2 against Lantern Control. We have the best card in our deck. There's no chance of mulliganing in the million years. And I play the wrong land on one. I'm supposed to save the Tarn so that I can shuffle under a Lantern, but... Also worth noting, Remand's not great here either, but at least it cycles. I think there's a chance I should have remanded an earlier spell, but I want to get more mana out of it by like remanding a bridge. Here, I'm just going to remand the Inquisition because they're going to take the remand, so I may as well have shot at another card. You know, look, great hand against that discard spell. Opponent just kind of milling along for no reason besides filling their graveyard, except for the part where they're milling me with Codex Shredder when I have Snapcaster Mage in my deck. I guess that should imply that they have Surgical in their hand. Fire the Negate because it's just going to get that anyways. Spellskite, who cares? And I decide that I can get more value out of this Shatterstorm than I currently am getting. And now that they know about the Shatterstorm, things get a little interesting. I'm not going to attack into the Crane because I don't want to give them the chance of drawing it out to it. I'm going to wait until I have Remand up to counter their rebuild. Which conveniently lets me remand a Duress. Nicely done. And they don't have another Black Source because they've been missing land drops. And here I get to Vision first, just in case I drew a counterspell, I could wait another turn, like counter the Duress or whatever. Keep the Mana Leak, they're short on mana, and here I'm just going to Shatterstorm, and then Fire the Needle because they have Duress up anyways. I actually think I played the wrong land here. I think I was supposed to play the Mountain because I don't think they knew about the island, but they don't have the mana for Duress anyways. Here I'm okay starting clocking them, you know, giving them a card because I now have actual control of the game with Snap. Or like Snap Shatterstorm really is just the beats. And that's kind of what I'm saving for. Play this card with this wonky ability that you can cast Disrupting Shoal for any amount targeting a spell, even if it's the quote-unquote wrong amount. Here, I'm going to snap Mana Leak instead of waiting to snap Shatterstorm. Not only do I get to attack immediately if I do this, but I also get to save the Shatterstorm in my graveyard for when I draw the next Snapcaster Mage, which is conveniently next turn. Spellskite's pretty irrelevant. And because I have Negate, Disrupting Shoal, and everything in graveyard, I'm not going to get aggressive. I still kill in, you know, if undisrupted, the immediate Snapcaster Shatterstorm kills in one turn, but I think that just Snapcaster Shatterstorm against one card in hand out of my opponent is going to kill basically immediately anyways. And Vendilion Click here basically seals the deal. There's not really any way for my opponent to have enough of literally everything with the cards in their hand to stop my lethal attack with Shatterstorm. I leave them with this because the Decay isn't actually going to take me off of lethal. And I shatter away my... I don't even Shatterstorm? Well, I didn't need to. I just get to attack. It would have been kind of cooler to shatter away my own thing, but I guess it's all the same. Okay, so after switching the Spell Snares to more Lightning Bolts, we are off to game 3. This hand interacts great. Sadly, they resolve a Lantern on one, so we're going to have to jump through some interesting hoops. And Pixis is going to resolve through Stubborn Denial. This is horrible. Fortunately, they cycle us to a land, which I kind of like. And so here, I could just immediately Pithy Needle the Pixis, but I would much, much rather Mana Leak another piece. And then here is where I Needle the Pixis and lock my opponent out of the lock. And they're just trying to shuffle away the top card of my deck by doing that, but it makes my Mana Leak more live, which is pretty awesome. And here, I think I make a mistake here. So I fire Mana Leak on that Surgical, and I think the correct play, given the situation, is actually just fire the other Remand. I don't care about Remand being gone, and it also, like, I don't care about it solves the two issues that this Surgical is posing. One is that I'm down a card, and remanding it just gives me a new card instead. And then the other thing it solves is that my opponent's trying to shuffle away the Snapcaster on top of my deck, and by remanding it, I just get to have the Snapcaster Mage, even though the Surgical stops it. I guess the fact that they get to get the Surgical back and Surgical when I snap makes it a little interesting, but there's just another Surgical. They target Remand because it seems like I'm protecting one, but I think that maybe they're supposed to just target Mana Leak, so I just don't have Mana Leaks in my deck. And this Blood Moon is just the absolute perfectest. Leave Cryptic on top of my deck. Blood Moon my opponent out of recasting the Glint Nest Crane I returned to their hand. And now at this point, I know their hand is just complete and utter trash. You know, the Crucible that they drew, giving them a basic mountain from their graveyard. My opponent's trying to prevent me from drawing the Cryptic by lanterning me. I'm going to respond by Vendilion clicking to draw the Cryptic to lock them out of another draw step. I know the top card of their deck is Air, and they concede at this point because they're basically like drawing to slim outs that I also have covered with counter magic. I think that there's a chance they could have won from here, but it looks pretty bad from them. So in the interest of playing more league matches, I would not be surprised if their concession was a good play. But showcased a few interesting things here, like being able to click yourself to draw the top card of your deck immediately. Should have been able to remand to do the same thing. I think Blood Moon's actually really good in this matchup. I don't even care about, like I said, don't care about shutting off spells. I just care about shutting off Inventor's Fair and Academy Runes. So I was kind of blown away to win this matchup. I always thought Lantern was really good against blue-red nonsense, but I think I had a few specific cards and the right counter spells in the right spots and just kind of came away with a matchup that generally isn't great.